So Dr. Kanodia would be delivering the keynote address for the event today. She is one of India's most dynamic young leaders, an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and global voice for social change. As the chairperson and trustee of M3M Foundation, she has spearheaded transformative initiatives that have touched the lives of over 4.8 million people across 22 states, 3 union territories, and more than 850 villages. This makes M3M Foundation one of the country's most impactful models for grassroots development. Her pioneering work spans education, healthcare, women empowerment, skill development, environment, sports, where she has built scalable programs that uplift the underserved and inspire systemic change. Under her leadership, initiatives like I Empower, Sakshar, Kaushal Sambal, Lakshya, and Sarvodaya have redefined philanthropy, not as charity, but as empowerment and nation building. Recognized with honors including the Karamveer Global Fellowship, CSR Person of the Year, and the Mahatma Award, the Times 40 Under 40, Dr. Kanodia has also represented India at Global Faith and Philanthropy Summits, sharing platforms with the world leaders and change makers. Her personal commitment to advancing women's socio-economic participation, nurturing entrepreneurs, and strengthening India's youth makes her a true architect of change. It's a privilege to welcome Dr. Kanodia as the keynote speaker of the Social Impact Conference and Awards at SAICA 2025. Ma'am, please come. Can we have Ms. Ruchika Kumar to felicitate her? Okay. Ma'am, you give your address, we'll felicitate later.
A very good evening to everyone, respected dignitaries, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you all today. As we gather here today, I invite you all to look ahead, not merely to a date on a calendar, but to a destiny we are entrusted to shape. We stand today in a moment of transition where the choices we make as a nation will echo for decades to come. India is writing its next chapter in its classrooms, in its hospitals, in its enterprises, in its villages. And the progress is undeniable. And the possibilities ahead are even greater. It is in this spirit that we look towards 2047. And I'm reminded of these words by Mahatma Gandhi today. The future depends on what we do in the present. History is not composed in some distant tomorrow. It is crafted in the choices that we make today. Our Upanishads gave us a profound truth, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one family. This is not just poetry of the past. It is India's living philosophy and our contribution to the future. This reminds us that progress cannot be selective, nor can development be isolated. If even one section of society is left behind, the family stays incomplete. If one nation suffers, the world becomes a weaker place to live in. And when India speaks of Viksit Bharat, it is not a vision limited to our borders. It is a call to humanity because true development is not just building infrastructure or wealth. It is nurturing dignity, equity, and opportunity for all. This is India's message to the world stage that the essence of modern progress lies in ancient wisdom, compassion, interconnectedness, and the belief that when we uplift the most vulnerable, we uplift the entire humanity. Will we be content to commemorate 100 years gone by, or will we rise as the embodiment of a civilization that has realized its tryst with destiny? It is in this very spirit that our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has invoked in his call for Viksit Bharat 2047, a fully developed India by the centenary of independence. For all of us, it must be more than a governmental vision. It must be embraced as a shared national aspiration. That is why I stand here before you all today, because Development cannot be reduced to soaring GDP figures or gleaming skylines. It must be measured by its moral compass, by which I mean that the fruits of progress should reach the marginalized, whether opportunity is determined by merit rather than birth, and whether prosperity is pursued in harmony with our planet and not at its expense. And here, technology is already reshaping the very foundations of our society. For example, let's consider UPI, which is a homegrown innovation and has transformed every single street vendor into a banker in her own ways and made India the envy of nations still struggling with financial inclusion. Consider, too, our semiconductor ambitions, not merely an industrial pursuit, but the bedrock of sovereignty in the digital age. These are not side notes in our development story. They are milestones that announce India's intent to lead. Yet, technology, like fire, illuminates and burns in equal measures. The question before us is not whether we can innovate, but can these innovations elevate? As Kofi Annan has reminded us, knowledge is power, but information is liberating. Power unguided can also divide, and liberation unguided can actually exclude. Our task is to ensure that technology becomes a great equalizer, not a great separator. And this is why I speak of India 2047, both in terms of social conscience and technological ambition. One without the other is absolutely incomplete. Progress without equity is hollow. Innovation without empathy is dangerous. But when these two are fused together, they can transform a nation. History reminds us that nations prosper when values and vision align. Costa Rica has proved that prosperity can run on renewables. South Korea has proved that universal education can be the bedrock of economical ascendancy. India too has shown this in its own way. In Rajasthan, Bhadla Solar Park, which is one of the largest in the world, in the global success of UPI digital payments, Chandrayaan-3's historic landing near the moon's south pole, and in other countless achievements that signal that our nation is determined to lead. The question is no longer whether we can achieve, but it is whether we can scale. No longer whether we can grow, but whether we can grow responsibly. This, then, is a promise to India 2047, a nation anchored on 5 enduring foundations: sustainability that safeguards our future, inclusion that uplifts every community, technology that empowers, partnerships that multiply our impact, and youth who will not merely inherit tomorrow, but shape it. I do believe these are the key pillars to a sustainable and inclusive India. When it comes to sustainability, the endurance of nation is written not only in their wealth, but in their covenant with nature. History's cautionary tales remind us that when civilizations mistook abundance for infinity, they awoke too late to the realization that the earth keeps an unforgiving ledger, and she always collects her dues. This is why we all carry a moral responsibility towards our planet. And in India, where there is an urgent need to rethink how we engage with the very resources we depend on, the responsibility cannot rest solely on multinational corporations, government, or social activists. It belongs to each of us. The environment is something that is not outside of us. It is us. And we all belong to this environment. And the environment is equally there for all of us. Every choice that we make, how we treat waste, use plastic, consume food, maintain cleanliness, or nurture our green spaces, this contributes to our collective ethos. Small, mindful actions in our personal spaces have the power to scale into a transformative impact for the world at large. For me, This philosophy finds expression in my deepest commitment to restoring the natural habitats and protecting wildlife. Through the One Jeevan project at M3M Foundation, we are actively working on reducing man-animal conflict, conserving biodiversity, and ensuring that coexistence remains the guiding principle to sustainability. Another initiative of ours called Sankalp, we have already planted over 6 lakh trees, established over 1,000 Sankalp Vatikas, leveled about 50.82 acres of land, converted 15 tons of waste into artifacts, and completed more than 25 water conservation projects. Each of these efforts actually reflect our belief in turning vision into tangible and lasting impact. Ultimately, the true change begins with a shift in mindset. When we stop viewing the environment as a resource which is to be exploited and start embracing it as a shared home that is to be nurtured. Our journey demands simultaneity. We must build, we must balance, we must innovate, we must conserve, we must expand without exhausting, and it means driving growth with renewable sources of energy, turning waste into wealth through the circular economy, protecting biodiversity as the birthright of our children. What others see as a constraint, we must embrace it as our historic opportunity to lead not by imitation, but by innovation. The next critical reminder actually is inclusion. And political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it something called as social democracy. Dr. Ambedkar had cautioned in his final address to the Constituent Assembly in 1949. A few months later, when we spoke the words, "We, the people of India," we are not merely adopting a constitution, we are proclaiming that liberty would not be the preserve of the privileged, the dignity would not be rationed by birth, and the opportunity would not be denied by circumstance. But declarations are not self-executing. They demand vigilance, they demand renewal and courage. The question before us is not whether India has grown richer, but whether it has grown fairer. Can we look into the eyes of every child today, in a village, in a city, be it a girl or a boy, and say with conviction that neither the accident of birth nor the absence of digital access will limit their horizons of possibilities? True inclusion is not sentiment, it is knowledge that opens doors, care that preserves dignity, and skills that turn a life of limitation into a life of possibility. Nations that forget this truth may glitter briefly, but they corrode from within. Nations that honor it truly endure. If you notice, every civilization is remembered by the tools it mastered. For India 2047, that tool truly is technology. And the question is whether we will wield it for the few or for all of us. Artificial intelligence, digital platforms, and the blockchain are not the ends in themselves. They are just the instruments. In our hands, they must become the instruments of transparency in the corporate social responsibility, of accountability in social welfare, and the trust of governance. Used without consistency, they can widely create inequality. Guided by conscience, they can be a great leveler for the society. So let us be clear that in this century, digital exclusion is the new illiteracy. To be denied access is to be denied voice, to be denied visibility, to be denied opportunity. Ultimately, the game is all about partnerships. No nation is built alone. Government sets direction, enterprises brings innovation, and people give it legitimacy. The triad, public, private, and people, must be the backbone for India 2047. For business, this means a shift. For compliance-driven CSR to purpose-driven nation building. Not charity, but commitment. Not checks written, but choices made. By 2047, let partnership be our method, not our exceptions, where every enterprise is judged not only by the wealth that it creates, but by the nation it helps to shape. Today, youth will not be the heirs to the finished story. They will be the authors of India's next chapter. The century will not be written in the boardrooms or ministries alone, but in the imaginations, courage, and enterprise of those who are now students, dreamers, and innovators, and the future of our nation. To them, we owe more than schooling. We owe legacy. More than employment, we owe ownership. More than representation, we owe responsibility. And more than opportunity, we owe the confidence to lead not only in India, but on the world stage. And today at the Social Impact Conference and Awards, it is where this covenant is accelerated by recognizing those who lead with courage, by forging partnerships that multiply impact, and by inspiring new generation to carry the torch. Let this gathering not end just with speeches. Let it end with a resolve. For the story of India for 2047 will not be written for us. It will be written by us and judged by those who are yet to come. Thank you so much.